Coming up on Mountain News this morning, officials hope a resolution is in sight as the man charged in connection to the death of Deputy Caleb Conley is set to change his plea later today. And Family Feud takes Washington with a message from the cousin of RFK Jr., warning senators not to confirm him as health secretary.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News this morning.
Good morning. My name is Amelia Lee. On this Wednesday, January 29th, we are at 5:30 on the dot, marching towards 6 o'clock this morning and some of those later hours as well. We are also at that time to check on in with meteorologist Megan Dusmall for a look at our forecast this morning before you head out the door. Megan, I know I've been talking about some of this warmer weather that we've been seeing. Warmer, we'll say with quotation marks, since again it is winter time. But what can folks look forward to as their work week progresses? Yeah, I mean, you already said it. You hit the nail right on the head. Yes, it's going to be warmer. We're continuing to see that warmer weather. We will drop a little bit after we see those rain chances, but don't worry. We won't be staying in the upper 40s for long, as we're going to be back up to the 50s and maybe even 60s as we're heading into next week. But let's look outside the door right now. What can you expect? And we're talking 40s, which is very warm. This is normally what you see for this time of the year and the afternoon highs, and we're seeing that right now. 40 degrees in London, 45 in Manchester, and even warmer as you're heading towards Monticello, 47 degrees. Now, here's what you can expect this afternoon. Temperatures will warm up into the mid-50s for most of the area, but upper 50s are not out of the question, especially as you're heading towards Middlesboro and Jacksboro, 57 degrees as those high temperatures. Now, let's take a look at that satellite and radar. Looking quite clear this morning. No rain, no snow, no wintry mix, and no clouds. Very interesting, and we'll continue to see that trend continue all day long. Here's what you can expect as you're heading out the door, though, and continuing into your day. High temperatures will hit around 4 o'clock, and again, looking nice and clear all day long. High temperatures in the low to mid-50s. Amelia? All right, Megan, thank you. The Scott County community is hopeful that today they could see justice served for the death of Deputy Caleb Conley. Court records show Stephen Sheng is set to change his plea in Scott County today at 1:30. Sheng is accused of shooting and killing Deputy Conley in May 2023. Deputy Conley was gunned down during a traffic stop on I-75. Sheng's pled not guilty and maintained his innocence. Our sister station obtained multiple incident reports involving Sheng from the Bourbon County Detention Center, ranging from violence like attacking someone with a broomstick to hiding the key to a handcuff. Kentucky State Police say one person is dead after an officer-involved shooting in Rowan County. Officials say the incident happened yesterday morning at a home on Buffalo Ranch. Scanner traffic indicated it was a domestic dispute. One woman says her friend lived in the house where everything happened.
I just got a message and I just hurried up here as fast as I could to see what was going on. I was tore up like a freight train. I couldn't even get dressed. Look at me. I mean, I just threw my clothes on and out the door I went.
Investigators did not say what led up to the shooting, but we know the person who was shot died at the hospital. We do know that no officers were injured in this incident. State police are investigating a deadly crash in Pike County. Troopers with KSP Post 9 responded to the two-vehicle crash just after 6 on Monday evening. It happened on Penny Highway in the Virgie area. Troopers say one woman was driving a Jeep Grand Cherokee when her vehicle crossed the center line and hit a Kia Sorento being driven by Mina Pinson. Pinson was pronounced dead at the scene by the coroner's office. A Pikeville man was sentenced to 33 years in prison. Samuel Atkins was sentenced for possession with the intent to distribute 40 grams or more of fentanyl and possession of firearms by a convicted felon. According to court documents, law enforcement found Atkins at a home in Richmond in January 2023. They found drugs in a bedroom after he was taken to the Madison County Detention Center. Police later found he was trafficking drugs inside his cell. Two men are facing charges after being accused of taking mining equipment. This happened last week in the McDowell area in Floyd County. Police were patrolling the area when they started to follow Malin Mitchell and Jason Stumbo. When police searched their truck, they found the equipment in the bed. The men told police they got the items from an abandoned mine property in Martin County. A new report is shining light on how many foster children in Kentucky are sleeping in state office buildings and for how long. Kentucky state auditors Allison Ball launched the investigation into the Cabinet for Health and Family Services last year. From June 10th to October 29th, officials report 49 children spent a combined 198 days in state office buildings. Following the findings, Ball is now asking for further investigations on this issue. University of Kentucky police are investigating a sexual assault on campus. Crime bulletin went out on Sunday alerting students to the incident. UK police say it happened January 17th in the victim's room in a residence hall. They say the victim knows the two suspects. UK police confirm the victim was connected with resources like a victim's advocate to navigate the legal process. The University of Kentucky is introducing a new program to help keep students safe. The Green Dot program is a national effort to encourage people to be active in eliminating violence. On UK's campus yesterday, the Violence Intervention and Prevention Center invited students to workshops at the Gatton Student Center to teach them how to prevent violence. Leaders with the center say they saw a lot of positive reaction and engagement. Yesterday, human rights advocates pushed for an amendment to Kentucky's Constitution. Representative George Brown Jr. was joined by other advocates to promote House Bill 121. The amendment would add Kentucky to the list of states removing slavery and involuntary servitude exceptions from their constitutions. Right now, the Constitution allows for exceptions in terms of involuntary servitude for incarcerated people.
Of course, it's focused on people that are currently incarcerated, people that's focused, but it's also for the state. We as people should not be in a slave state. We as residents of Kentucky, this should not be in our Constitution. It's 2025. It's time to move on. It's time to change and stand on the things that we've been saying that we've been built on. So if we're really talking about...
He says change starts in the Department of Corrections, and incarcerated people should be paid minimum wage for their work while serving time. This morning, President Trump's pick to lead the Department of Health and Human Services will be on Capitol Hill for his confirmation hearing. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is set to be interviewed by senators just one day after his cousin, Caroline Kennedy, called him a predator, urging his nomination be rejected. CBS's Jared Hill has more.
One day before his confirmation hearing, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s first cousin, Caroline Kennedy, with a warning to senators.
Bobby himself is a predator.
The daughter of President John F. Kennedy claimed RFK Jr. is unqualified to be Secretary of Health and Human Services.
Bobby preys on the desperation of parents of sick children, vaccinating his own kids while building a following hypocritically discouraging other parents from vaccinating theirs.
Meeting with senators on Capitol Hill.
Sir, your cousin called you a predator. What do you say to that?
No response from Trump's potential cabinet member. If confirmed, Kennedy would oversee the FDA and CDC. Kennedy has backed popular concepts like overhauling the nation's food supply.
We're mass poisoning our children with processed foods.
Today, senators are likely to grill him on his controversial takes on issues like fluoride and vaccines.
Not one of the 72 vaccines currently on the schedule, mandated for our children, has ever been tested against a placebo.
We're all concerned. I mean, he's a disruptor. Can he be a disruptor without being a destroyer? We'll see.
I don't agree with everything that he says, but we certainly both think that there's opportunities in nutrition.
President Donald Trump tapped RFK Jr. to run the nation's health agencies back in November after the one-time Democratic presidential candidate dropped out of the presidential race. Jared Hill, CBS News.
Former Vice President Mike Pence has spoken out against RFK Jr. over his past support of abortion rights. Tomorrow, Kennedy will be back for another hearing, along with Trump's picks to lead the FBI and his choice for Director of National Intelligence. Google will comply with President Trump's executive action to rename the Gulf of Mexico. Soon, Google Maps will change the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. In a social media post, Google explained it has a long-standing practice of changing names updated in official government sources. The name will be tweaked when the government database is updated. Google will also change the name of Denali, America's highest peak, back to Mount McKinley. There are still many unknowns on how the president's action could impact organizations here in Kentucky. Officials with the Kentucky Center for Economic Policy say agencies are trying to figure out what the next steps could be. That includes Voices of Hope, which helps recovering drug addicts. Program Director Jimmy Chadwell says this could impact their brick and mortar location, mobile assistance unit, and educational efforts.
We're open 7 days a week, so if that's not open anymore, that's 7 days a week that people can't get recovery services.
Voices of Hope is not alone. The National Science Foundation abruptly canceled its grant review panels for this week. In 2023, it awarded more than $27 million in grants in Kentucky, the biggest chunk, $16 million for the University of Kentucky. Congressman Hal Rogers says his office received multiple calls about this and says he looks forward to working with President Trump to safeguard critical programs in our region. He also says, in part, quote, his temporary pause strictly applies to grants and loans that promoted the DEI, the Green New Deal, and funds for organizations that undermine national interest. President Trump recently suggested he might eliminate the Federal Emergency Management Agency known as FEMA. Appearing on CNN, Governor Andy Beshear talked about why he believes that getting rid of FEMA would be a bad decision. The governor pointed to the help from FEMA during the 2022 flood and added benefits that organization brings to now all natural disasters.
But what FEMA does is give us more resources, take some of that administrative burden off our hands, bring some expertise for folks that have been through certain types of natural disasters before, and connects us to resources that we need. And at a time when we're all working as hard as we can.
President Trump does not have the authority to terminate FEMA. That power falls under the Department of Homeland Security and can only be terminated by congressional action.